Although the hospital room appeared spacious, behind the curtains, next to them was, in fact, Roy's bed. He was still resting there. He could not see through the curtains, but he could still hear them. She recalled the first time Michael violated her in her past life. That experience was traumatic. As a result, she remained frightened of him for a long time after their marriage. In fact, after she lost her innocence, the shame had nearly caused her mind to collapse. She had wanted to kill Michael, and she had even attempted to do so. She glanced at the fruit knife on the bedside table. In her previous life, she had taken that knife and charged toward Michael. Even though he had managed to back away, she still injured his abdominal area. Afterward, he did not seek proper care for his stab wound. In the years that followed, whenever it rained, the old injury would ache. She guessed he wanted to remember how deeply she had hurt him and how intensely she had hated him. At this moment, she regretted those actions deeply. She sniffled and glanced down at her own body. This was truly, her weight was at least 108 kilograms, heavier than a pig. Furthermore, her small frame was burdened with layers of fat on her upper body, arms, and legs. Her skin had been quite fair in the past. However, in order to cause Michael to dislike her, she had intentionally tanned herself to a darkened state. The sight of her current figure was enough to burn her own eyes. She was amazed at Michael's ability to endure her. She lifted one hand to touch her face and immediately felt the little bumps on her skin. Even without a mirror, she knew she looked unsightly with those pimples. Right before she lost her sight, she had realized that after losing some weight, allowing her darkened skin to recover, and seeking the proper treatment for her acne-covered face, she actually was quite a beauty. In this life, she needed to quickly lose weight and recover so that she could obtain those good looks. Her mind was suddenly filled with images from the past life. She glanced again at the knife and quickly pulled the blankets up. She wrapped her naked body up tightly, leaving only her head peeking out. First of all, she really wanted to put something on, but she glanced at the ripped hospital gown on the ground. Michael had torn it into shreds. There was no way for her to use it again. Michael noticed her gaze on the knife. He immediately narrowed his cold eyes. He guessed she wanted to stab him. At this moment, his expression was frighteningly dark. She had eloped with Roy behind his back, and now she was even thinking about killing him. He curled his fists tightly and dug his nails into his skin. He resisted the urge to strangle her, but the suppression was too much. Veins bulged on his forehead. Crack, crack, crack. Katherine heard the sharp cracking noise from Michael's joints. His combat skills were undefeatable, and his shooting skills were equally formidable. Moreover, he was a true, natural-born business talent. The companies under his name were involved in almost every industry, and he directed a large financial group that was ranked first globally. He had a complex background, and since they were young, he had been the country's ultimate male idol. She really could not survive his punch. His fists were tougher than steel. Even a single punch would take away half her life. She shouted, "Don't hit me." It was only after the words escaped her mouth that she recalled, regardless of how much trouble she caused for him, he had never once raised his hand against her in her past life. Michael's lips curled up, and his crazed eyes were filled with rage. "You're still afraid of being hit?" She nodded her head frantically. Michael narrowed his eyes and watched her in a searching manner. Something seemed to be amiss with her. He had violated her in front of the man she loved. Shouldn't she be screaming and shouting at him? Earlier, she had been so agitated that she cried and bit him hard. His chest and arms were covered in scratches and bite marks from her. He had thought that she would continue with her insane behavior. To his surprise, she appeared much more composed now. "I wouldn't stoop so low as to hit you. If you can't bear to hit me, you should say so directly." Her lips seemed to carry a faint smile. Her smile made him feel as though something was seriously wrong with her. Could it be that she had gone mad from the mental blow? Katherine was genuinely happy. They were both alive. How wonderful. She felt deliriously happy to the point where she wanted to jump on top of him, to hug him and kiss him. However, right now, she was still undressed. She couldn't possibly jump on him while she was naked. Furthermore, the current him hated her thoroughly and was extremely enraged by her actions. She thought somewhat pitifully, since God wanted to give her a second chance, couldn't he have brought her back a little earlier? If that had been the case, she would never have eloped with Roy. Forget it. Obtaining a second chance was already a great miracle. Michael's expression turned colder. She was right. He truly could not bear to hurt her, even though she had betrayed him. Katherine watched. His expression turned darker than coal. She understood that she had to overcome this difficult obstruction. From what she recalled, in order to punish her for eloping, he would soon lock her up in the Yuting villa. That was his residence, outside the city center. She did not wish to be locked up again. Thus, she began to coax him with soft words. She said softly, "Don't be angry." He stared at her chubby face for 3 seconds and felt that she must have gone mad from anger, or perhaps she was intentionally putting on an act to fool him so that she could find an opportunity to kill him. He did not change his expression. Since she wanted to play the long game, he would go along with her. "Do you think that your actions are simple enough to only invite my anger? What did I do?" She mumbled in a low voice. "I met with a car accident while I was in Roy's car." Why are you so angry? Even if he killed her, she would never admit to eloping with Roy, despite it being true. Otherwise, their relationship would really become doomed. Besides, from what she recalled, in order to secure his own life, Roy never admitted to the truth about what had happened. "You dared to do it, yet you won't admit to it." Michael seemed to instantly be overtaken with rage. The already frigid room was becoming even colder. She endured his heavy aura to ask him innocently, "Admit to what?" He gritted his teeth and said, "You dared to elope with Roy. You are looking for death." If this had been in the past, she would already have been trembling in fright. Right now, however, she was strangely unafraid of him. She raised her eyebrow and said, "Who told you I eloped with him?" His face was dark, and he stood there silently. She knew clearly that it was her own good sister, Alyssa, who had given him this news. Since he did not wish to answer, she did not press him to do so. Regardless of your misunderstanding, could you please get me some clothes? I'd prefer not to continue this conversation naked."